Greetings from Brooklyn. Hope you're doing great. Welcome to BK Gardenz. It is a hot July summer day here in Brooklyn. Today we are talking about refortifying and putting minerals back in your garden beds that your plants have pulled out for the amazing growth that they're delivering. You know, mid-season of the gardening year, here we are, it's mid-July almost. It is hot. A lot of thunderstorms rolling through. On the way now. I better hurry up and finish this episode. You know, what happens is in the cycle of growing is in the spring, you do all the preparation to grow, you get your soil right, you add the compost, which is the most foundational element to good organic gardening. And now, like mid-season, like here I am standing next to the 4th of July tomatoes. This little bed here will produce somewhere on the order of hopefully 60 to 80 tomatoes, which is amazing. That this small space in a city urban environment can produce that much fruit. Again, the testament and power of urban gardening. But really important right now is with every week as this fruit gets developed more and grows more, it's pulling a tremendous amount of nutrients and minerals out of the soil. And what I'm going to do today is fortify the beds. You can call it amending the beds. Fancy term is dressing the beds. But bottom line is I want to get nutrients back in the beds to refortify, re-enrich the beds that have been delivering all of this nitrogen, which is for leaf growth, the phosphorus, potassium, all of the things that are really essential for healthy plants. Because if we do not feed the plants, what will happen is kind of like our own bodies, is these are living organisms. Our soil is a living organism. The more we can promote and put rich minerals into it, the more microbes and beneficial organisms there are to deliver the food and nutrients to the roots, which in turn will deliver great fruit and vegetables to us. You know, doing it organically is what we're going to talk about today, without chemicals, because, you know, chemicals, we practice organic gardening here. Doing with chemicals will provide a quick shot potentially to save the plants this season, but it'll kill a lot of those microbes and the beneficial organisms which are creating sustainable growing environment. So that's why I do it organically. So the first stop where most things start with BK Gardenz is, let's get to the compost bin. Composting is the foundational element of good organic gardening. When I started gardening and growing our own food about 4 years ago, I didn't realize, you know, I knew about, hey, there's environmental benefits, you know, less going to the landfill of composting, but I really was not close to aware of how great compost, and, you know, compost once it's completed is black gold. You've heard that term a lot. I've used it a lot here on BK Gardenz. This essentially, this 55, 70 pounds of compost material that's ready to go into the garden beds is 100% from food scraps, whether that was, you know, banana peels, eggshells that we didn't eat, coffee grinds. You know, I stick to vegetables. You check out my episode on composting in the city for what we use for composting. And really all of that material, you know, for dry material, I use leaves that we find in the garden. I also use coffee chaff because, hey, there's a lot of coffee roasters here in Brooklyn. They don't use that coffee chaff. Amazing what I prior thought of as waste is now, in my mind, a huge input that can go back into the garden to promote great growth. So what I'll do right now for today for remineralizing and re-energizing my garden beds so that my plants have a great amount of food for July and August to have a really strong end to the growing season, promote really strong plants which will prevent disease, make them grow bigger, taste more delicious. All of those things is really impacted by the compost that we'll use to amend the soil. And then also what I'll use, so I'm going to basically collect a bunch of this compost right now, and then I'm going to also amend it with some azomite. So first let's get the compost and then off to add a little azomite. Okay, so now I have my compost, 5 gallons of compost here in my Lowe's bucket. You know, the compost, just to talk to a little bit about compost again, you know, the compost we use here is like with our own composting bin system, but you might not have access to your own composting. It might be like, hey, I don't have the time to do it. What I encourage you to do is take a look at your local community organizations, look at composting facilities near your town, and what you'll find is, like here in Brooklyn, we have Red Hook Farms, great composting operations done in partnership with the Brooklyn Botanical Garden, huge compost facility, amazing, check it out. And also we have over in Bushwick, BK great community organization, check them out also. Like, so when I don't have enough compost or my supply is running low, I've definitely used both. You know, they the cost is minimal to free actually at Red Hook Farms. You just got to show up with some container to take it home. So check it out. You don't need to go to a Lowe's to buy this stuff. You can go get it, and either if you're not producing it yourself, get it free from a great community run organization. Next element I add, so I got my compost here. This is going to contain a lot of the nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus that we'll need to grow. The other naturally occurring organic material that I use a lot of is azomite. Love the name of it, azomite. So much fun to say. Azomite is an amazing material that's only found, actually this stuff is like, it's from a huge volcanic eruption which happened millennia ago. But the ash settled in Utah, very specifically in Utah. And so this is a proprietary, this is Nephi, Utah. And really what I love about this is that, hey, it's naturally occurring. This is not with like petrochemicals going into the garden. This is rock dust essentially. And it has like 80 minerals that are found in nature that are really high concentration. So I will add this. So what I'm going to do is add about a cup of this into here, kind of use it, judge it, you know, like, hey, the reality is, since you're using rock dust, you don't have to be worried about like throwing in, like, if you were throwing chemical fertilizer, you could be really careful because you could kill a lot of things. And the other great benefit of using whether compost or azomite rock dust, these are naturally occurring from nature elements. You're not throwing in chemicals which are going to kill the microbes and beneficial insects which you need to grow and to create a great organic environment for your plants and vegetables. So that's why I really encourage checking out azomite combined with organic compost, homemade compost preferably, but wherever you can get compost, free or through a community organization. You don't need to go to a Lowe's or Home Depot to buy it. Hey, if you have no other resource available to you, I always encourage growing first, but do what you can. You can probably find it with a little bit of research, free or near free. Now, next step, let's show you how to get this onto your garden beds. Okay, so now we have our azomite and our compost, homebrewed BK Gardenz compost mixed together. This is now rich, organic, natural material packed with minerals. The azomite, 80 plus minerals. This is a great mixture of nitrogen, potassium, phosphate, all the things needed for leaf growth, stem growth, everything these plants need to be nutritious and healthy is packed in here, all natural. This will have no impact on the microbes and beneficial organism, which I want, and you want to keep healthy in your garden bed. So next step is clearing away the cedar mulch. Whoa, holy smokes. And any indigenous, this looks like an indigenous plastic Brooklyn Cobra. It looks pretty tame though. Luckily I'm just going to put it down gently and let it go. One of the many risks of gardening in Brooklyn when you have a 7-8-year-old living in your household. But what I'll do is here is back to the amending here. You see I have cedar mulch here on the bed. This cedar mulch I use as a great layer to keep the water that I do. Like right now, I put this all over my tomato beds because what this will do is act as a layer to keep the water locked in on days when it's 90, 100 degrees. Water evaporates tremendously fast. You could be watering 3 times a day and it's still not enough. Once you added this, I've been using a layer of cedar mulch for like 3 years. It really locks in, reduces the total amount of water you need because it stays in the bed. and actually acts as a really nice cooling mechanism for the roots, so the plant doesn't get fried in like the hot, which we're getting to right now, almost 90 here in Brooklyn. So highly recommend using a cedar mulch layer. But what I want to do right now is clear away the cedar mulch layer, because if I put my azomite and compost on there, it will actually break down this carbon of the cedar mulch, and I don't want that to happen. I want all of this goodness of my compost and azomite to be right at the base of the root of the tomato plant. And then once it's there at the base of the tomato plant, I will recover up with the cedar mulch so that it's locked in, and then really let nature do its work. We're supposed to get a shower here, a rainstorm in the next 2 hours. What will happen is, as the rain and the watering happens over the next month, all of the material and from the compost and azomite will drain down into the root system and be pulled up by the plants, refortifying them, making them strong, healthy, packing them with minerals, which will make them more nutritious and delicious for our whole season, and produce plants longer into the fall with less disease. So that's how you refortify and ensure that your growing is successful. Make sure your plants are fed properly. If this was helpful at all, if you have any comments or questions, please hit me up. There are other amendments that I use also in the garden. Doing some searching on this, I'll put in the link below some other amendments that I use, like for my raspberries. You can find naturally occurring things that are, like what I use a ton of is actually our coffee grinds. We drink coffee every morning. Our berries, blackberries and raspberries, love it. I put a layer the same way I did here. Just throw it actually at the base of it. Don't even need to move the mulch away. And actually that will naturally give more nitrogen to those blackberries and raspberries. So that's how you amend your garden, set yourself up for success. If this was helpful at all, please hit like or subscribe. I'm Sean Duggan, signing off on a beautiful Brooklyn day. Remember to refortify, feed your garden beds, and they will feed your plants. See you soon.